So I figured I'd do a quick recording on today's trade, just to give you a. I was thinking earlier, I thought it was a pretty much identical trade, but it's not, obviously, because this one breaks out the top of the Asia range, which is here, and this one breaks out at the bottom and tests the middle line and continues to sell. So I'll just sort of like show you the slight differences, but in reality, if we turn the Asia session off, what we're basically looking at is it fills an imbalance in this wick here somewhere, breaks a 1 minute, change of character, mitigates it, sells off. This one's pretty much the same. It fills an imbalance into somewhere we're happy with, change of character 1 minute, mitigation, sell. They're both the same. They're just, the only real difference is this breaks to the downside, leaves targets. This one just aims for the Asia low and continues after that. Aims for like this low here. Pardon me. But I've deleted all my markings, so I'll give you the most realistic sort of breakdown as I can to keep it as realistic and authentic. Before I actually get started, I just want to show you some structure, just to give you an idea of why I was happy to take this, happy to take the sell from where I was. Kind of there. So we've got that there. I'll change that colour so it's easy to see. Blue line, that's a structure. So basically, one of my rules for structure is obviously we're downtrending, clearly downtrending. I think higher time frame we are overall bullish. So where I was yesterday, I was originally looking for longs, but a short term short, but it's continued down for whatever reason. One of my rules for structure is so we've got this high here, which I'll draw a line from so you can see. We will change it red. Do it thicker as well. So that's the high, and that's a low. So anything between that top and bottom line is our current working range. So from this point, when prices like retracing, reversing, whatever you want to call it, if it's going to continue in its downwards trend, we don't want to see it break this high here. So when I was looking for imbalances, obviously the Asia range is created somewhere from around about this high here, I believe it was this wick high here, somewhere thereabouts, till about 7. So from there, so yeah, initially I'm looking for an imbalance fill somewhere in here. If it can go higher, if it does, then I would maybe be looking at changing me looking, rather than looking for sells at that point, I'd then maybe consider buys, depending on how body's closed and everything. Like if obviously this closes above, but it doesn't actually break above the actual wick high. So on the 1 minute, for example, the bodies will still be there. So this is the importance of a current range. And as you can see through the previous day, this previous entry comes nowhere near the top of this range. So as it's starting to break down, yes, we get the retracement before, but if it's going to start trending downwards, we don't really want to see it starting to break previous highs, but we want to see lows broken. As you see down here, low broken, low broken, low broken today. So until we start progressing from breaking other highs, obviously we've got now possibly got this, something like that. This might go a bit higher in the night or whatever, but we are possibly looking for something like that, unless we get something like that, obviously this would become our new range high. If that was to be the case, that would be our new range high, and then that becomes our new range low. So that becomes our working range again. Just delete that so I can actually get on with the trade itself, but that's just a little bit on structure and why I'm looking for where I'm looking. So I will bar replay from today's Asia session. So we are there. Just going to drop to the 5, just it's a bit easier to see. Right, so that's where the Asia range finishes. So obviously we can see it breaks out to the upside. Do another one. So at this point, I am looking for imbalances in here. I've left there's an imbalance in here, the yellow line here, and a BPR in here, which if they'd have tapped them and done a 1 minute shift, change of character break structure, whatever, then I'd have, like I said, I'd have been considering sells still, possibly, depending on what was going on. But if it had taken one quite well, I'd have maybe then been looking for a midline retest. If it would have taken high and gone in between something that I liked, or left targets, if it created an equal high with this wick or something, I'd be considering midline tests. But we're looking at what we've got in front of us and playing the cards that we had dealt with, basically. But I'll stop waffling in a sec. So basically, as that breaks out, I'm looking at this zone here for an imbalance to fill. Obviously, we've got this here. So, imbalance fill. Possibly got this up here. An imbalance fill. I'll drop down so we can see a bit clearer about what's going on. So this one's actually a BPR. I'll draw the box for you actually. Didn't actually notice that earlier, but and then obviously here we've got we've got an imbalance. Yeah, imbalance. Obviously, because I'm looking for cells, I'm drawing the line on the top of at the top of the imbalance, so I know when that line's touched, it's filled. I'm fairly happy with that. So I'm just going to go forward and find the Asia range. So let's let that play out again, so I know where I am. That must be the low that. Obviously, we know it breaks the high. I'm just gonna zoom in down here because obviously we're looking for targets as well now. So what I'm doing now by looking at the imbalances is what I'm actually doing after the breakout has happened on the Asia range. So later on, obviously, you'll see it pretty much tap and fill the imbalance at the top, but just shy of. But then obviously, I'm also looking for targets once I've found what I think I want it to fill. Obviously, we could look for targets further down than this, but just as a safety thing, we're pretty sure it's going to test the low in a downtrending market, so or pretty close to. It could be a reversing point, so we've got that imbalance here. I'll just draw it quick and then delete it. So we've got a little imbalance in there on the 1 minute. That there. Just drop down again to the 15-second and just clarify some imbalances. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. There's maybe this down here. Well, I mean, that's a fairly decent size one. You got this one here. You got them imbalances there. Everything else is covered by this. This one's covered by this. So that's them sort of three are what I'd generally be looking at for targets for this sort of thing. Obviously, like I say, it could go lower, but It's not what we're not trying to be overdo it. The last thing you want is to have silly amounts on the table and not take anything. So when we get somewhere near, pause it again. I think we're about there. So as you can see, we are just shy of that imbalance fill here. This is the reason why I didn't take it. Play a few more candles. Yep, the sole reason why I didn't take it was because I thought if it breaks below here in a minute, which I'll show you when I carry on, but if what's that? I think the next one must come higher because it was 3 pipettes I looked at earlier. But it's just shy of the imbalance. So what I was thinking was, obviously in a minute it breaks to the downside on the 1 minute. I thought, yes, that looks like an entry, I could take it, but if it comes and fills that imbalance, and it still might want to go higher if it's got some imbalance to fill, so that's the only reason I didn't take it. Obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing. It is what it is. So then we are looking for a, let's say, a shift under that. 1 minute break of structure under there. Just going to slow it down a touch so I don't go mental. We get a shift, so I'm just going to go back. Played a couple extra there. Pardon me. So because we've had the 1 minute shift under here, we've filled in imbalance. We've had a shift to the downside in price action. I've gone with this one because how I sort of see it is we've got maybe that as one leg. And then we've got that. Yeah. There's a standalone, like there's 3 candles, 3 decent red candles there, so it's a fairly good thing. It's a standalone wick with space between it and other. I won't class this as one because it's just not enough for me. I'd say that's maybe a little bit of liquidity being generated. Does it create an equal low maybe? Across here, but or mini trend line, something like that, but it's not enough for me to think it's anything other than just this straight line of price action. So that's why I've picked that low as my change of character shift that I'm looking for. And then from that point, obviously now we're looking for an entry again. So not too clean on the 15. Possibly got a little tiny bit in there. Maybe something in this one as we go a bit lower. And then we've got decent enough candles here. Not the best looking on any of them, to be honest. But we drop down, we look in favour. And then obviously they start to look a bit better on the 10. This one now looks more appealing. Obviously we've got this up here, this little zone up here. So that's the highest one. It's the direct cause of a mini shift in price action, so it causes this that breaks under this little mini seconds that puts in the high. If this sort of like low stopped around here, I'd possibly move to something down here, but it does something. It's only minute, but it actually does something. I'll not go lower than the 10 second because I don't think I need to. I don't think you'll gain anything by me showing you that. And then obviously from that point, pending would have been set. there. So that's a 7 pipette zone. So let's allow half a pip for spreads. Be generous. I could comfortably do that, but let's go 2.5 because I know some of you believe in, and I'm hyphenating here, breathing space. I don't necessarily believe it, but for me, I'd generally say that plus obviously 3 if that imbalance would be my cut-off point, and if it hit that, I'd just turn around and say yes, I've got the wrong zone. And then obviously we've got targets for down here, so we've got conservatively, if we went to the first target, 20x. Down here, if you want to go a bit more, 23. But at that point, like I say, pending will be on, so we'll just play the candles and hopefully I haven't messed it up. To the pip. Down there. Yeah, as you see, the accuracy of that imbalance fill. It's nice and nice deep into that zone at the top, but with my broker it's still over half a pip still in that zone if we went with 2.5. 23R. Job done for the day. We can all live off 20 hours. Happy days.